Namaste. I'm going to do something today that most people are too afraid to do. Seriously. I'm going to show you my life. And it's not going to be, the highlighted success story life. I'm going to show you the whole thing. From the day I was born to the day I leave this world. Seriously. And I'm going to tell you this through my Vedic birth chart. And I'm going to show you what the planet said about my arrogant 30s. I'm going to show you why I lost everything I built. And I'm going to show you what's coming in the future in my 60s. And at the end of this video, I'm going to tell you exactly what my chart says about how this life ends. And it ends in moksha. It ends in liberation. I'm not guessing it. The chart says so. And this might be the most honest thing you've ever watched on the internet. I'm going to predict my life according to the Vedic astrology's most powerful sequence. And it's called Vimshotri Dasha. These are called Mahadashas, seasons of life, where the planets and their placements predict the way our life will be experienced. Each Mahadasha is ruled by a planet, from 6 years to 20 years long. Now I'm going to start with the Mahadasha I was born in. And I will end at the Mahadasha that I will pass on. So, the beginning. Moon Mahadasha, November 1968. I was born on November 8th, 1968 in Kerala state, India. The moment I arrived, the Moon Mahadasha was almost over. I had been maybe 16 months inside the Moon Mahadasha. In Vedic astrology, the Mahadasha that you are born into shapes the emotional atmosphere of your earliest years. And not just your life, your parents' lives too. The moon governs emotions, nurturing, the mother, the home. And in my chart, the moon sits in Rohini Nakshatra. Rohini is the most fertile nakshatra in the entire zodiac. It's the nakshatra of the moon itself, the one it loves the most. And in Indian tradition, it's also the birth nakshatra of Lord Krishna. So I arrived in Rohini moon, which sounds beautiful. And it was, and it wasn't. Because here's the reality of the home I was born into. My sister had been born 15 months before me. My father had just quit his law degree studies in university when she arrived. He was working. My mother was a nurse. They were figuring out how to provide for one child. And suddenly there was another one coming. My birth caused excitement, for sure. but also a kind of beautiful chaos. Two babies under 2 years old. My father, who had walked away from his professional dream of becoming a lawyer, a mother working as a nurse while raising children. The moon Mahadesha was running through exactly those themes: fertility, abundance, but also anxiety about providing, about provision. My younger sister came 6 years later after me, when my parents were in their financial abundant year. So, same family, same timing, different life. The next season in my life was Mars Mahadesha, age 1 to age 7, April 1969 to March 1976. When I was about 1 year old, Mars took over. Mars Mahadesha runs for 7 years. And almost immediately, my parents moved us to Dubai. Mars in my chart rules my 7th house, the house of foreign lands, long journey, and partnership also. My mother was working as a nurse. My father built his own business there in Dubai. Mars is the planet of action, ambition, an early physical drive. And I was apparently in a hurry. They say I started running before I properly started walking. I don't remember this, but I believe it completely. Because that impatience, that eagerness to be somewhere else, to be somewhere bigger, somewhere I hadn't been yet, that has been with me my entire life. Mrs. De Cruz's nursery. I still remember being dropped off at the nursery. I remember the smell of the place, the other children, that mix of loneliness and curiosity that a small child feels in a foreign environment when both parents are busy working. Dad's entrepreneurial drive, my dad, that his refusal to stay in someone else's structure. I got that from him. It's in the DNA. So, 7 years in Dubai, running before walking, watching my parents build something from nothing in a foreign land. That was my Mars Mahadesha. And I believe Mars prepared me for what was coming. The next season in my life, I call it the invisible years. Rahu Mahadesha, age 7 to age 25, April 1976 to March 1994, 18 years. Rahu is a planet of illusion, hunger, and the experience of being an outsider. And in my chart, Rahu sits in my sixth house, the house of obstacles, of enemies, of daily struggle and service. 18 years inside that Mars energy. I was sent to a boarding school in India. Now I want to say something about this that I've never said publicly. Boarding school in India during those years was not the romanticized version some people imagine. It was a lonely, and people were mean. The way children survive in that environment is by establishing where everyone stands. And where I stood, in the eyes of my classmates and even some teachers, I was somewhere near the bottom. I wasn't considered an average student. Teachers wrote me off. Students put me down, teased me. That's just how the system worked in a boarding school. You pushed others down to keep yourself up. But the sixth house is also the house of the person who doesn't break. And I didn't break. Because inside me, my impression of myself was the complete opposite. I knew what I was. I had no credentials, no achievements anyone could point to. But I knew. I was sure of myself. I genuinely didn't care what they thought of me. By age 14, I had just one thought. Get out of India, out of the smallness of the world that I was in. Rahu in Pisces creates hunger. Hunger for something the familiar world cannot provide. At 19, my parents worked incredibly hard to send me to college in Europe. London, traveling, working in different places, living in different countries before the age of 25. Between 19 and 25, I was alone in the world. Alone in a way that most people never experienced. No family nearby, no safety net. Just the hunger that Rahu gives, and the quiet confidence that Mercury gives. I didn't know it then, but I was being prepared. The next chapter in my life was the Jupiter Mahadasha, age 25 to age 41, April 1994 to March 2010. Jupiter took over when I was 25 years old. And for 16 years, that belief in myself felt completely justified. But the first thing Jupiter did was to humble me. At age 27, I got married. My parents were Christians. It was an arranged marriage. They didn't believe in Vedic astrology. They didn't check the muhurta, the auspicious timing for marriage. And I got married in the worst possible planetary window. Retrograde Saturn in my 7th house was never a good one for marriage. And the marriage lasted 18 months. I was alone in New York City. Again, no relatives, no friends. Just a circle of people from my ex-wife's side who wanted me to fail desperately. Most people would have collapsed. I didn't. Something in me woke up. The Mercury in my first house, the same Mercury that sat quietly through all those boarding school years, being written off, underestimated, finally found its playground. I got into business, communication, building something. I fought. For years, I fought. And by my early 30s, the business was growing. The business became a multi-million-dollar a year in revenue. It was extraordinary. Big house, big cars, traveling anywhere in the world by just picking up and going. I met Martha during those years. My wife had 4 children by age 39. And I believed I'd made it. That's the thing about Jupiter Mahadesha. It inflates the ego until the ego forgets. Until the ego forgets that the abundance was a gift, not my personal achievement. In my mid-30s, I was looking back at my those years are cringe moments, proud and arrogant about what I had built. I thought the good times will never end. Jupiter always thinks it will never end. And then the final Antardasha arrived of Jupiter's. 2007 to 2010, and the ground started to shift. That took me to the next season in my life, Saturn Mahadesha, age 41 to age 60, April 2010 to March 2029. Saturn took over in April 2010, I was 41 years old. And I want to say something about what happened over the next several years. Something that I've never said this clearly before. See, Saturn didn't take things from me. Saturn showed me what was never truly mine. The house, the business, the $1 million income, the respect of certain people I considered close friends, the identity I had built around my material success. Saturn looked at all of it and said, let's see what actually holds. And guess what? Most of it didn't hold. I lost the big house. I lost the business. I lost the $1 million income. I moved from New York to Texas, trying to save money, then downsized again and again, until I was in a 2-bedroom apartment with my wife and 2 grown children. Thankful for that. Wondering what had happened to the man who once flew everywhere in the world on just an impulse. What was underneath all of that was something I had inherited, but abandoned. You see, my grandfather and my great-grandfather, they were Ayurvedic doctors, and my great-grandfather was a renowned yogi in Kerala. The DNA of the spiritual tradition was always in my blood. But I had buried it under the Wall Street version of success, under the belief that the man with the biggest house had the most value. But Saturn said, no. Saturn said, go back. And in my early 40s, I started going back. Vedic astrology, Vedic education, the ancient knowledge that my grandfathers carried. Slowly, through all the losses and the humiliations and the suffering that Saturn demanded, from those it chose to truly teach me. I found my way back to the lineage. And then, in April 2023, my body was giving up. I had a heart attack. I was in Saturn-Mars Antardisha during that time. Mars rules the blood. Mars rules the muscular force of the heart itself. And Saturn constricts. And the message here was unmistakable. Stop. Completely stop. And pay attention to what actually matters. I am grateful for every single thing that Saturn took me from. The hurt, they devastated me. Some of them still sting when I think about them for too long. But because what remains after Saturn strips everything away is the only thing that was ever truly real. The wisdom, the lineage, the ability to sit with someone's chart and help them understand their own life. The knowing that Sai Baba's grace was present with me through every single year, even when I couldn't feel it. That's what Saturn left me with. And it turns out that's exactly what I needed. Exactly what I needed for what comes next. I still have 2 years of Saturn left, 2029. Now, I'm going to predict my future according to my Vedic chart. My next Mahadasha will be Mercury Mahadasha, age 60 to 77, April 2029 to March 2046. Mercury is my strongest planet, and not by little. Strong by significant margin. Mercury sits in my first house, right at the door of my identity. Mercury is the divine teacher in Vedic tradition. Mercury is the planet of language, of communication, of transmission of knowledge, transmission from one mind to another. And in April 2029, when I'm 60 years old, Mercury takes over for 17 years. I know what this period is. I know it because the chart is clear, because everything Saturn has been doing for 19 years is preparation for this. And because somewhere in the part of me that doesn't lie to itself, I have always known this is where I was heading. All the content I've been creating through the hardest years of Saturn. The videos, the readings, the teaching, building an audience, person by person, through the most difficult, financially difficult period of my adult life. Going further into my future, strictly through Vedic astrology. The next Mahadasha is Ketu Mahadasha, age 77 to 84, April 2046 to March 2053. Ketu sits in my 12th house. Ketu sits with Jupiter and Mars. Three of them together in the house of the unseen, house of spirituality, in the house of liberation, of deep past life spiritual practice. Ketu's Mahadasha at age 77 is my chart's way of saying that the outer work is complete. Come home. Home means the inner world, the devotional self, the presence of Sai Baba that has never left, even when everything else did. By this point in the life, I imagine sitting somewhere in Kerala or somewhere there. Perhaps students coming occasionally. Not many, but the ones who need exactly what I carry. Ketu doesn't want a big audience. Ketu wants silence, and God. The soul and the divine meeting, in a way, it has no words for it. That every genuine devotee understands. I am now 84 years old, and I am entering Venus Mahadasha, age 84 onward, April 2053. Venus is my soul's highest planet. A Venus Mahadasha at 84. The soul completing its journey in the arms of the very planet that holds its deepest lessons. Deepest lessons that love is not something that you acquire. It's not something you earn through success or lose through failure. Love is what you are underneath everything. Underneath everything. Everything that Saturn stripped away. Yeah. Underneath the big house. Underneath the arrogance of my 30s. Underneath the humiliations. Love is what was there at the beginning. In Rohini Nakshatra, the most fertile, warm, nourishing energy in the zodiac. And it is what will be there in the end. Venus Mahadasha at 84 is the chart telling me that you have arrived. It's my chart saying you don't have to build anything anymore. You don't have to prove anything anymore. You don't have to understand anything anymore. You can just be. This is my story. This is what one planet, period after period, chapter after chapter, has me doing all my life. Now, think about your own life. Think about the period that felt the most expansive, most like you could do anything, and the period that felt like the ground was dissolving, and the period when something you just couldn't explain started pulling you toward a completely different version of yourself. Those are chapters, planetary chapters, each one governed by a specific energy with a specific agenda. And when you understand which chapter you're in and what it's trying to do for you, something shifts in your mind. The suffering doesn't disappear, but it finds its place. It finds a place inside the story that makes sense to you. If you want to know which Mahadasha you're currently in and what it means specifically for your life, your chart, your timing. I do limited number of personal Vedic reading. The link is in the bio. I am Bobby. This is Jyotish Files. And I'll see you in the next video. Stay blessed. Namaste.